I just find that the people that are sort of getting sold the aggressive investments are often the people that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And they should be thinking about, how do I pay off debt? And actually, I've done a lot of courses over time teaching financial peace, which is a Dave Ramsey course. And I'm not affiliated with him in any way, except for I believe that his path of pay off your debts first, start saving an emergency fund. I think that is really valuable. And honestly, I think if I've had one piece of advice, it's go to Fidelity, Charles Schwab, say I want ETFs. And the other is, if you do not have capital to invest today, you should sign up for Dave Ramsey course. He does interject faith. But I believe that's a really valuable process, because you can't get rich overnight if you're stuck in debt.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Hey everyone, my name is Sharelle Mendenhall. Thank you for joining us on Access Las Vegas. Today I'm really excited to bring to you someone who is an entrepreneur brought here from the East Coast, and he's here to give you some tips for the new year. Davis, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so tell me, is being an entrepreneur glamorous?
Absolutely not. No, it is not. It is an absolute hustle, and it's nonstop. And I've been an executive before. I've been a big professional, and being an entrepreneur is nonstop, not glamorous. It is everything and all encompassing.
So for yourself, how did you even get into this business? And tell me a little bit about the industry you're in.
Yeah, so I'm a professional investor primarily. That's how I describe myself. I actually kind of feel like I was born with it, which sounds weird. I was a kid, and I remember being at this local deli, and they had the Wall Street Journal, and every Saturday we go to the same deli, and I'd open the Wall Street Journal. And one of my dad's friends ran a concrete company, and I would look at the share price, and I was like, wow, it's like 17 this week. And then the next week I'd go and like, oh, it's 16. And back then the stock prices of like 3/8. Like, oh, I wonder why it went down. And I would ask the guy that ran the business, like, why are you were 21? And so I've just always been intrigued by the idea of being an investor. Like, what does it mean to buy shares in a company? What does it mean how do you get that capital compound? And sort of, so I started off as a very young kid surfing and sort of living a dream, but I just had this idea over, like, I've always been drawn in to financial markets. And that sort of led me through to a college where I studied at university, and I knew I wanted to work. Initially, I worked in the stock market effectively as an investor.
That's amazing. Well, I think that something that's really powerful and in your story is you're also a Christian. And a lot of people actually shy away from talking about finances in the Christian world, or actually building wealth.
Yes.
And so I want to talk to you a little bit about that. And has God played a role in your life with investing, business? What does that look like? So
the funny part is, what I do now, my sort of day job, is I make investments into the gambling industry. So this is something I think about a lot. Like, I talk to my kids about it, is like, my primary source of wealth going forward is if the gambling industry grows. And that's just sort of a conflicted thing. I've really struggled with that across the last like 5 years or so. But I would say I've really come to appreciate that God can use you anywhere.
Yeah.
And whether or not that is, me buying stocks of big public companies. And, I used to have meetings with like Jeff Bezos and do big, interesting things. Now I just do gambling all day, which is sort of a bit of a funny shift in life. But I just sort of, maybe the interesting part from my standpoint of my journey is when I worked at a big organization, big investment firm, then I worked for one of the big casinos, I wasn't public about my faith because it was frowned upon, right? It was always like, you went to a meeting, this is the sort of shoes you wear, this is what you do. And it's very much like A, and then you do B, and then you do C, then you thank them for the meeting and you leave. Now that I'm out on my own, that's actually where I've been able to start sharing, like, I am a Christian. This does impact how I do business. It does impact the decisions I make. And that's more where I'd say it shows up now than anywhere else, but it's constant in my personal life.
Yeah.
Sometimes more, sometimes less, to be honest, as every Christian knows. There's times where you're sort of further and closer. And but for me, it's been really sort of, I've been able, now that I run my own firm, to say, this is what I do. This is what I believe.
Yeah.
And I don't lead with it. I'm not trying to say, hey, I'm a Christian and therefore you should take my money versus someone else.
Right.
But I don't hide it anymore. And I think that's been the big unlock. And when people want to talk to me about it,
that's pivotal. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So I love being practical because a lot of times we look at individuals have been successful in life and we don't know how they went from point A to where they are currently. And so something you were sharing a little bit behind closed doors is you've had some ups and downs, you know, on your journey of so-called success and wealth. What would be some practical things you would share with individuals who do want to get involved with investing? Because right now, if you go to social media, you're inundated with everybody's idea of where to go and what to do, and they have a hidden agenda. What would be some practical steps for people who are interested in investing?
So the short answer is, for most people, most of the time, the answer is to minimize your cost. So I had a good friend of mine come in some money. She never had any before, and she got some, and I recommended she go to Charles Schwab or Fidelity and go meet with one of those advisors and tell them you just want to invest into ETFs, which are exchange traded funds. They're like mutual funds, but cheaper. It's a good way to make sure that as the stock market goes up, your money goes up. As the stock market goes down, your money goes down. And that's probably the safest investment for the vast majority of people.
Okay.
And you're not going to get rich overnight, right? That's probably the thing that drives me nuts is I come from a very regulated, very big asset management firm where, again, what you said on LinkedIn mattered. And we've taken that same sort of principle over like, let's be institutional grade to my smaller firm that I've started. And but I see other groups going out and raising money, running Facebook ads. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is illegal. I mean, it kind of is. There are rules, but it's like the SEC is a whole thing here. The SEC's been cut back. Their budget's been cut. The number of people have been cut. They're not going to go after some guy who's saying, get rich quick, follow me. Yeah. Until he gets really big. Like the Bernie Madoff will hit the radar. But by the way, he even made it decades, right? Right. But I do see that the less financially literate people get their heads turned by those sorts of ads. Yeah. They lean in. And actually, I find that to be destructive. And I find it to be sort of gives real investors that are thinking about how do I compound capital over a decade a bad name. Because if I walk in and go, hey, I think I can generate these returns. And all of my clients, just, you know, because of what I do, we don't solicit investment from sort of the average person. You have to be something called an accredited investor. So you have to be making, I think the test is that you have to have $1 million of liquid net worth before you can do what I do, which is private investments. We don't own stocks. But I just find that the people that are sort of getting sold the aggressive investments are often the people that shouldn't be. Yeah. And they should be thinking about how do I pay off debt? And actually, I've done a lot of courses over time teaching financial peace, which is a Dave Ramsey course. And I'm not affiliated with him in any way, except for I believe that his path of pay off your debts first, start saving an emergency fund. I think that is really valuable. And honestly, I think if I had one piece of advice, it's go to Fidelity, Charles Schwab, say I want ETFs. And the other is if you do not have capital to invest today, you should sign up for Dave Ramsey course. He does interject faith. But I believe that's a really valuable process because you can't get rich overnight if you're stuck in debt. Yeah, that's a very good point. And we're kind of a debt obsessed culture, you know, and it's the next credit card, it's the next this, and it's like, it's a debt obsessed culture versus actually moving into liquidity, moving into investing, moving into growing what you have. I want to talk about a different aspect of your life. Okay. So you've ran other companies, started other companies. And again, I'm all about being practical. So for the people who are coming up and they have this dream, we're starting in the new year and I want to do this. You've started other companies, right? So I worked at a firm in the DC area that was about $8 billion when I joined, which is pretty big, but there was like 40 employees, something like that. And then I saw us grow to about 200 employees and $75 billion when I left. So we were tremendous investment results. Then I worked for a big casino here. But yeah, I currently own two companies. One is my main day job, which is the investment firm called Discerning Capital. I also own a pool business, which is sort of another investment thesis I have. But maybe just to get more practical. So I haven't started and sold businesses in the past, but I have been, by most measures, people would say I've been successful. I actually don't know if I feel that. I feel like I've got sort of constant, I don't really have traders. I don't have that sort of imposter syndrome. I'm sorry. I don't have imposter syndrome anymore, because when you start from zero, you're going to lose it real quick, because you can't be sitting there being like, oh, am I good enough to do this? Somebody just has to do it.
Yeah.
So like, interestingly, my number one piece of advice to anybody in life, when you're trying to figure out how do I go from where I am to where I want to be, is you have to have a couple things. But one for me is you have to absolutely not want to lose.
Okay.
And you don't have to win. Not every swing has to be a home run. Like, my wife talks to me about this a lot. She's like, how do you get up every day or take phone calls at 11 p.m. and then at 5 a.m. And it's because every day, what's the option? It's like, I either just stop trying and I go backwards. Because if you're not moving forwards, I'm a big believer of you're atrophying, you're going backwards.
Yeah.
So every day I wake up and I think, what do I have to do to not lose?
I like that.
And I think if you do that, you start making better decisions.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, you have to make the decision of, one, I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to bet on myself. I'm not saying work a 9 to 5 until you die. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying, learn the skills, be intellectually curious. That's, I think, a trait that everyone should really be cultivating in themselves, is intellectual curiosity, which we can go into if you'd like. But then once you've made that, you've got some skills and you've made a decision of like, this is where I want to go in life. I want to go from where I am to here. Yeah. Every day isn't about winning. Every day is about not losing. How do I get to that place, right? How do I go from the 10-year view to the 5-year view to the 3-year, the 3-month?
On today's health tip, with Access Las Vegas, I want to talk to you about fasting and autophagy. So fasting is something that we saw throughout the Bible, fasting and prayer, and the spiritual implications and how powerful it is to intercede in this way. Well, in addition to that, there's something beautiful that happens at hour 17, and this is just the beginning, but our cells begin to turn over. The components, damaged components actually start to heal and repair as we fast, as we pray. So I want to challenge you guys to not only see this as one-dimensional, but to see the blessing that God gives us as we are obedient, as we fast and pray. There are additional things inside of our own bodies that start to heal, and it is so powerful. So look up autophagy, guys, and I challenge you to just start with even something as small as a 24-hour water fast and see what happens in your body and go from there. I want to ask kind of like a follow-up as you're speaking, and you're kind of giving the bullet points. Do you personally draw out that map as far as goals? Do you have a business plan? What do you do in order to set yourself up to be successful and see where you want to be? Because some people do it and it seems so ambiguous, and it feels like it's not even practical.
Yes.
So tell me, do you do that and then jump into the intellectual?
Yeah, so I do. We're actually just interviewing someone this week to join our firm, and he was like, what's your vision? And I was like, well, over time, I want to be a $2 billion asset manager. Okay. Right now, I think our SEC disclosure is somewhere around 60 million. So started 3 years ago. First year, we were about 4 million of assets. Year 2, we were 13.8, I think is the number. And it's like, and now we're going to finish this year about 60. So we're sort of scaling nicely. But it sounds crazy to be at 60 million and say, I want to get to a couple billion. Right. But the truth is, it's because I know this next year, based on what we're doing and sort of the investments that I see that are very attractive, and I have the skill set to say these are attractive investments, I think we'll get to 150 million. And that's sort of my goal for this year. And I've written that out. We have a budget. We have a plan. We have a hiring process. We have how many investments we have to do to make that work. And then I look out and I go, okay, well, if that's where we get to this year, what's the 3-year number? Yeah. Right. And for us, that's about 500 million. Right. Which, again, sounds crazy when you go, okay, well, how are you going to go from, call it 60 million today to 500 million in 3 years? It's like, well, because I know if we do what we're supposed to do, this next year will be 150.
Right. And it is numbers. And I love that. And just even in sales and everything, they call it a numbers game. But it is. If you commit to the numbers, you're going to see the results. You have the plan, you have the vision.
Yes.
Absolutely beautiful. So talk to us about the intellectual curiosity.
So I think anybody, no matter what they're doing in life, should be trying to get better every day. That's what I say to my kids. I have a few mantras with my kids, but I'm like, what do we do every day?
Yeah.
And they say we get better. And I'm a big proponent of that because it changes your mindset, right? It's how do I take what I'm doing now and get better tomorrow? And I think if you just wake up and I don't learn anything every day and I just go run in the same wall, what have you done, right? How many people do you know in your life that they've said, I'm going to someday be this, right? I'm going to make this up because it's a more tangible example for people. I'm going to be a doctor. But if you wake up every day and you don't start learning and you don't start learning biology and signing up for classes and get wherever you are in life, you sort of take the next step. You have to get the knowledge to start moving, right? It's not as simple as, oh, I'm just going to get good at doing the same thing over and over and go to medical school. No, you have to say, what am I going to learn today to move me closer to taking the MCATs, which are like the exams to get into that. And so with all that said, it's like, I think that some people inherently have it. I think if you said, Davis, like, what is your main characteristic as a person? I'm intellectually curious. My dad has it too. We were just talking about my wife. It's like, we were talking about something the other day and she asked me a question. I was like, I don't know, just Google it. Yeah. She's like, well, I'm just going to figure it. And I'm like, no. Yeah. Like, there's no reason to ever debate information anymore. We should never debate over a fact, right? Because it's all findable. Yeah. Right. And once you find that first fact, well, what's the next fact? Right. And so that's where I think that if people can get something in their mind new every day. Yeah. And you can do that every day for a long time. You start compounding on knowledge. Yeah. Which then when you compound on knowledge, you're also building skill sets. Yeah. And then those skill sets open new doors, right? Yeah. And I think about compounding a lot, which is, there's sort of that famous thing of like Newton says it's a superpower. But if you can just really figure out like what do I need tomorrow to get a little bit better. Yeah. And if you do that every day and every week, you cannot imagine the power of the math of being, this is like fitness people say it, 1% every day. Yeah. It's really hard to do in truth, but even if you do 0.2% every day, right? Our numbers versus let's get super, it becomes across a 5-year life. Yeah. If you think about your investment account growing by 0.2 every day, it's like, I don't know the math and maybe we can pull out a calculator. We could Google this as an example, but it's like, you're going to be probably doubling your money every year would be my guess. And if you double your money every year, you double it the first year, the next year you get 4 times. Yeah. The next year you are, at 8, then you're at 16, then you're at 32. It's just sort of the compound. Yeah. And that I think requires intellectual curiosity. Yeah. You have to seek what I'm not good at. Yeah. And then be willing to fix it, which is a whole nother thing.
Something I think even just like as you're talking that it just reminds me of how there's little steps that causes you to be successful. And so for me, I grew up in the time where you had a library card. And so you go to the library, I would max out my library card. They only allowed so many books out and then we go and return it and come again. And so I grew up loving reading, and I meet Adam and I was like, oh, I don't know, and so he's like, I want to try that. I want to try reading. And so he took it to the next level, which was really interesting because he started sitting down with me in the morning. That's one of my favorite things, obsessed. I do that, but I journal with it. So I retain it better. But he started doing a spiritual book and then a business book. And he set it as a standard of 1 chapter a day. Wow. Because for me, I would just sit there and I would, whether it was a section or whatever, but I was like, now he's pushing me to be better, even though that was my practice first, but then I saw him take it and run to the next. He's like, oh, I just finished this amount of books. And so to your point, he may have previously thought he wasn't good at reading, but then he picks it up and he's going to surpass me if I don't step up my game as well and start reading at a minimum, a chapter a day, having different books that are different goals and not just whatever comes along. Yep.
Because you have a plan now. Yeah. You've committed. I mean, I actually think about there are people in your life that push you forward and there are people that pull you back. Right. And so I actually think a lot about, like, I keep using this phrase over and over, but it's something I think about as like compounding everything. So I compound relationships, which is a great way to build networks, right? How do I build a relationship with someone and that will build other relationships in their networks. And so, but yeah, I will speak to my wife is a great example, right? When we've been really leading our faith the last few years, it's because she started. Yeah. She started reading a book. Somebody gave it to her. One of her relationships was building her up, gave her a book. That's how it started. And I think about me, like, here I am now, and I feel like I've had a pretty good career, but if you met me in college, I was a hot mess. I mean, that's the truth. Like there's like photos of me in my high school yearbook of doing my homework on the trash can in the 7 minutes between class.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I just was I was reasonably intelligent. I was just like doing the bare minimum and trying to enjoy life.
Yeah.
But it was only after I became sort of best buddies with somebody in college that I was like, he was near the top of the class. I was, trying to stay off academic probation. And I just started to see what he was doing. And he's actually the person that first really taught me. Like I had this idea of I want to be a stock market investor.
Yeah.
But he asked me, I'll never forget it. We were walking one day and I probably didn't feel great because it was, college. And I'm sure I'd had a tough night the night before. And we were walking. He's like, well, what's the EBITDA for that?
Yeah.
And I was like, and I was too embarrassed to say, I don't even know what EBITDA is. It's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, which now I know.
Yeah.
But like by having that relationship and seeing his path versus my path.
Yeah. So good.
I could see, I was like, I don't want to be the guy who doesn't even know what he's saying to me. I don't even speak the language.
Yeah.
So I just think it's whether it's Adam with you and compounding business books and spiritual books, like I think having the people around you that are pushing forward.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know it. If you have kids and they're with the wrong kids.
It's true. It's true. And it's such influence. Man, time is already fun, but I have 2 more quick questions for you. If you can answer this in like 30 seconds, if you were to go back and give yourself advice as an entrepreneur or to the kids in the future that are just getting started, what advice would you give?
The number one piece of advice I give people is find the right wife or husband or partner. Because nothing you're going to do is going to be easy. There is like the quick wins are for Instagram. Yeah. And if you have the wrong partner that's second guessing you, you're not going to make it. That's
good. That's really good. And then if people want to follow your journey or know where they can invest or start learning, if you're putting out or teaching, a new class coming up, how can they find you?
So the financial peace class would be through Walk Church.
Okay.
And for what I post about investments, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's Davis Catlin. You can't really miss me. There's actually one other Davis Catlin in the world, which is
I don't even know if they were friends on LinkedIn. I'm going to make that step.
But I'm pretty private, so I don't post a ton, but I will. You can keep updated on what we're doing there.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, you guys, thank you so much. That was powerful. I love it. I just could ask you a million questions, but thank you so much for joining us here on Access Las Vegas. Like you said, follow him on Davis Catlin on LinkedIn to be able to see his journey, to follow it, and to start investing, because I truly believe this is a missed space in the body of Christ, is being able to manage your wealth properly, because God's called us to prosper, to take care of our community, to love one another, and I believe that it's practical. So thank you for joining us on Access Las Vegas. You guys, I am coming to you so thankful for Century H2O, because not only are they changing water, changing lives, but they're also partnering with us to give back to the Roarfest. So when you use code TRF, you're getting 10% off of everything that you purchase through Century H2O, but also they're going to be giving back 10% to the Roarfest, and we're going after preventing child trafficking this year. So don't forget, go to centuryh2o.com and use code TRF.
Access Las Vegas is hosted by Sharelle Mendenhall. Follow her online at Sharelle Mendenhall. Thank you to Davis Catlin for being our guest on this week's episode. Connect with Davis online on LinkedIn